Cafe. My name is Belinda Dubston, and it is wonderful that you are here with me for our first full weekly I Ching forecast for November, for the week commencing the 4th of November 2024. Before we get into this week, where we're growing and developing, casting our minds back to last week with that wonderful Hexagram 45, amassing, gathering together, the cloud and the crowd, accumulating leads and contacts and resources and bringing everything together around a single focus point. How important that is to achieve what we need to achieve. And dealing with that tricky changing line, all right, or struggling with the group, trying to find something in the center to help us move forward, or just accepting that the group is closed and we've missed the chance. And our second hexagram that we had from last week, hexagram 31, influence, being magnetic and attracted, understanding what's calling you forward, understanding this impulse that's drawing you forward, what you need to do, what you need to focus on. And do share if there was something that came out for you last week. It really is always wonderful to have that. I saw from last week we had some lovely comments on this energy. So yes, it was really intense. It was really was a feeling of being overwhelmed with a lot of stuff last week, and maybe you felt the same. I experienced this changing line. Very unfortunately, I had an admin job that I had to do, and I've been putting it off, and realized on the deadline that there was a whole lot of information I needed to gather. And it required a whole lot of people giving me that information. And those people, a whole lot of those people, a big portion of them, couldn't access the information on time for me to meet my deadline, even though my emergency was my own fault. And I thought about this changing line, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm living the I Ching this week. It really does feel like there's someone talking to us and telling us how and where we need to grow up. I really thought about that this week because I was stuck. This group that I was trying to gather together to get the deadline done, I could not get it to work. There were problems outside my control that would not allow me to get the information. And because I'd left it to the final minute, there was no room to try and find other ways. Done. Group closed. Deadline missed. Penalty. I will be paying the price. And so I hope for you, you had some positive examples of working with the energy. I too had that gathering together, some huge insights around things that I need to do differently and gathering together and maximizing and focusing the crowd and the cloud. It was a power week, very challenging, but such wonderful insights for us to take forward. Right. So as always, please do share if you have anything that came up. This week, where are we going? In this week, the 4th of November, we're into the month. You might have already had the opportunity to watch the monthly overview that we are continuing the biting through energy from last month with a not so slightly different energy as our second hexagram, allowing us to make progress. So we can just persevere through some of the stickiness that we have to overcome. All right, this week, our first hexagram, our first flow of change that we are working with is hexagram 59, dispersing. Imagine those pictures where we had the man in the clouds blowing the clouds. Okay, dispersing the clouds, dispersing the air, the wind moving in and melting the ice. Now look at the structure of this hexagram, top trigram, wind, bottom trigram, frozen water. Okay, cold water, the wind blowing across the frozen lakes, okay, dispersing and moving and shifting energy. All right, this hexagram is gentle, but what it does is it aims to break up the old, break up things that are stuck, okay. Maybe this is a good thing that we've got this energy this week, considering that we've got some areas of stuckness in our monthly that we're trying to work through. So maybe this hexagram starts to break that ice, break it up, churn it up, allow us to start dispelling it. It's going to help draw our attention to any situation where old things, old stuck energy is now holding the whole thing back, and we need to kind of dispel and shake and break. I keep on wanting to think about like the idea of taking a sage smudge stick or an incense stick and clearing a room of stuck energy, or blowing away pollution. That's what a wind does. If you've got a prevailing wind in your city like I have, the wind comes and it just clears everything up. Okay, it blows all that junk. Where it blows it to, who knows? But it blows it away and clears it out. Okay. We also think with this hexagram, we can also think about things like our illusions, our delusions, our old weird warped ways of doing things and thinking. Anything that's old and stuck and frozen, old emotional issues, old family issues. Don't be surprised if old unresolved things of the past just bloop, okay, come out of the quantum soup, because they are there to be cleared and cleansed and released. Okay, it's a cathartic energy. Now, that might not feel good, okay, because if you have been through a healing crisis like I have, you go through a detox emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and your whole body goes into a state of shock because there's this clearing and all these toxins are moving out of your system all in one go, and you've got to go through kind of the suffering of that. Okay, it might feel like that. It might feel for you of being as absolute relief. Having it out in the open, whatever this is. This can be a secret or something hidden or something out of sight that now comes back up. Okay, it can be dispelled and cleared, a misunderstanding. This is a great energy to work with other people where there are those kind of lack of clarity or issues where people have made assumptions, and now this whole thing is spiraled out of control into something else because no one sat down and had a good conversation about it and got everything out on the table. Those kinds of issues. The wind blowing away what is toxic, what is stuck, what is old, what needs to be broken up and released. That's what we are doing this week. We have one changing line in the 4th position. Okay, so just over the chasm. And this changing line, what it talks about in the texts is it is time to release and disperse the usual friends, groups, thoughts that are prevailing. Okay, so more people issues this week as we work with understanding where there are perhaps situations and groups and people where we need to clear them out. Okay, or clear out the influence or clear out the emotional issue that is causing us to not move forward. Remember, our monthly's got this thing in the mouth. Okay, perhaps we are not speaking our truth. What is the thing that's in the mouth? Perhaps that is fear of being truthful, of hurting someone else. How do we do that? How do we work with that in the highest and the best way? So the changing line calls us to let go of the usual stuff, the usual people, places, situations, thoughts, and go up into the mountains, into the shrine, deep in the mountains, high up, out of reach, and take yourself out of the usual into the unusual, all right, and contemplate, right? This changing line speaks very clearly that during this process of shifting your energy from the lower to the higher, from the usual to the unusual, to what's known, to what's new, is not hiding away from the issue. Okay, there's a very big difference between withdrawing from something that is not working for you anymore. Okay, we're dispelling the old, to go and seek insight and seek illumination from a higher perspective, having a bigger picture, looking down at a situation from a much bigger point of view, taking time out. That's not hiding from the situation. That is wisdom, okay, knowing the difference. So that is what this changing line is asking us to do. And perhaps we get the chance to return to those old things and old ideas, old people, old groups, but perhaps we don't. Perhaps in this week, what comes to our awareness, because remember, it's not always about what happens in the week, event-driven, right? And an event spikes up, right, in the week related to this changing line. I think it's much deeper than that. I think that can happen, it does happen, and I've experienced it a lot. But I also think what happens is that the awareness of situations is what swells up, not necessarily the event itself. The event might have happened before, the event might be prolonged, okay, and what it's doing is it's bringing it up and bringing the mirror. Okay, this is the situation. So where you have groups of people or friends or perhaps colleagues or associations, and you're sitting in those environments, you think, why am I here? What is this for? Okay, if you have that experience or that experience of having a realization around suddenly being in an environment where you think, why am I here? What is this for? Okay, think of my words and think, okay, is this the old and familiar and the routine and the ritual? Am I doing this because it's a ritual, all right? Or am I doing this because this is where my energy is needing to be, where my energy is needing to be focused? What is that? And how do we deal with that? Oh, people issues, making decisions, all right? So the reflection and going up into the mountain sanctuary is about getting perspective, going deep, all right? Not hiding, but getting wisdom. That when you come back from the mountain, you can make some decisions. And it's not quite clear yet how we make those decisions, but this line is saying, pursuing the new, pursuing the unusual, pursuing different, higher, elevated approaches on a situation opens up the door. Now, our second relating hexagram for this week, okay, where this one main hexagram evolves into because of this changing line, is a difficult hexagram, okay, because it's hexagram 6, conflict. I don't like conflict. I avoid it like the plague. Okay, you might as well. I do not like it. Okay, so conflict is a hexagram that comes to show what happens when different ideologies or different views on an issue butt heads. Okay, people issues, ideal issues where we butt heads and we come across opposing views. Now, the challenge is usually that when we have opposing views, one side wants to win at the expense of the other, okay? And so while both parties want to win, we have that image of the two bison running headfirst into each other. No good reason. There's no good reason, okay? And that idea of running headfirst into someone else and butting heads, okay, there are no winners in this. We have to, through this hexagram, what it's bringing us, the development it's asking us to do, is it's asking us to grow up a little around how we understand conflict and how we understand that a mediated, shared solution coming out of the conflict is the only way. When we fight to win, we die, okay? And what this hexagram is asking us to do is show restraint, relook at the situation from a different point of view, and find the common negotiated area. I'll never forget going on a course on negotiation, and it was very powerful because what you're doing is you're finding the area like a Venn diagram, right? Where the two circles overlap, my needs and your needs, but there's this little point, right, where the two overlap, and that is the special area, okay, that allows us to find a negotiating area. This area is something where we can actually both find commonality on it. So working with this hexagram, you might find there's some arguments, some disagreements, some opposing views. It might just be as challenging as not seeing eye to eye with somebody else on a particular issue, and then there's a way to mediate and discuss and open up the conversation to find the overlap in the Venn diagram. Okay, that's what we are being asked to do. And it might be that you have someone in your space, your workspace, your family, your home environment, where this conflict is just the last straw on the camel's back, okay? And now you want to just lay into the person, okay? And this is restraint, okay? So wherever in your life conflict comes up, restraint and mediation and finding that common area, that common ground, is the way we move forward. We don't try and do big wild things in the time when you have this conflict. We try and just work through what's in front of us, good communication, understanding and having an openness to what's really going on, looking at things from a new way. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to broaden that overlap, okay? And the way that we understand that overlap is by understanding the other person's position and their perspective better, and them understanding ours, and then suddenly the Venn diagram gets bigger and bigger, and that overlap becomes bigger, and we can find a better harmonious place where the mediated solution exists. We can do this. We can grow. We can deal with the conflict. Remember, conflict is not just about yourself with another person. Be open that the conflict is an inner conflict. Two colliding views within yourself that you're trying to reconcile. And the churn that creates, is massive. It can be a conflict of interests, You've got two people, two organizations, two partners trying to work together. And there's essentially a conflict of interest because what one needs impacts somebody else's, partners, clients, etc. So there's a stickiness, right? We have to work through this. This is what this week is about. And if this is a long-standing conflict, this week brings us the energy of dealing with it and finding productive, adult, mature, good communication ways of mediating the ultimate Venn diagram overlap. All right, we can do this. We are doing it. Thank you so much for being here with me. Please like or share if this was meaningful. Subscribe if you're new to the channel and follow on the podcast. And I look forward to seeing you very soon for our next weekly overview. In the meantime, have a wonderful week.